attachment to pleasure, or raga, is another pain-bearing obstacle. We attach ourselves to pleasure because we expect happiness from it, forgetting that happiness is always in us as the true self. When we expect joy from outside things, we become attached to those things. If we find these things make us unhappy, we create an aversion toward them, dvesha. So raga and dvesha, likes and dislikes, are impediments on the spiritual path. One we like because it seems to bring happiness, the other we dislike because it seems to bring unhappiness.
Don't take it as a fault. We don't know why things happen. When things happen, when you take it personally as it's my fault, then everything gets much worse. You stretch out. And that's the ego identification again. Identification with the ego. Ignorance. So what happens, we talked about it last week, the kleshas, ignorance, egoism. So ignorance is the base of all the problems. Egoism, positive or negative, it's still egoism. You know, when you feel sorry for yourself, when you get angry with yourself, it's self-identity. You put too much importance on the self. So it's very important at this time to understand if your intention is correct. And this is the really important thing, what is your intention? If your intention is correct and do the most good for everyone concerned, and things just don't come out the way you want them to, you have to accept it's the divine will. There's a will that's beyond your control. It's beyond your control. I know they always say, as you think now, all the new age thinking is saying, if you say so many affirmations, everything's going to work for you. Yes and no. I have to be so honest. I've seen people do all these affirmations and all these things, and then things go wrong, and then they get really like, it's me, I'm a bad person. Nothing to do with you. You did the affirmations, but it didn't happen. Maybe you have some karma to go through. They don't address the karmic energy. They just address as you think it becomes. Of course, as you think it becomes. But never forget, karma is like this. As Buddha says, if you want to know your present, know your past. If you want to know your future, know your present. So all we can do is think about now, this moment, and this is why this moment is so important. So all the work we are doing is so that we don't create more new karmas, having this knowledge. But what we've done before, we still have to face. And I'm sure if all of us are honest with ourselves, you know, out of ignorance, we have done many things that have not been nice. But it wasn't because we wanted to, it was out of ignorance. Until the time came for us to realize, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's when your spiritual soul takes over. The karmic time has come. You had to go through this much in order to get to this point. Do you understand? I find too many people now in spirituality, when they're sick, oh, that's because you're like this, you're like this, you're like this, you're like this. And sometimes it's just not. Sometimes, you know, how many people do I know, and I've heard of in the last few years, the best yogis, all vegetarian diet, no alcohol, no this, and fall flat and die. So I think so much judgment is also, you have to be careful. Of course good diet helps us. Of course all the things happen. But also life happens. You know, people say you can predict your time of death. I think there are very few yogis that can do that. And, you know, there are very, very few in this world. And they've been practicing in silence for years and years and years. We are living in the world. We can't expect to be able to do that. We don't have the time when you have children and bills to pay to sit all day long developing a power. We have work to do, and this is what I think we're here for. We need to do our work spiritually, which is in love. For me, it's simple. Everybody's reaching for the lofty samadhi. What's the point of having samadhi if everybody around you is suffering? Do you know? It's not meant for everybody. And what is samadhi for me anyway? And I hope everybody will forgive me. I'm not meaning to disagree with any of these scriptures, but I think times are changing. And the great truths are here, but we have to adapt to humanity. And now so many yogic paths are becoming so rigid and so unkind to people. You know, oh, you were like this because of this. Why do you want to hurt? That's so hurtful. Oh, you're too out in the world. Yes, maybe that's your time to be out in the world. We don't know. It's hard to judge. That's all I'm saying. And in our egoism, we tend to, whenever we fall into any kind of system or organization, we tend to make those judgments. For me, I have seen those judgments are most relevant when people are spiritual or presume to be spiritual, and they act in a horrible manner. Now, that I won't tolerate, because I think that's wrong. You know the science, then you go on telling everybody that you know the science, and then you hurt people one after another intentionally. I'm talking about intentionally, and I've seen that. Now, that needs to be corrected. Are you understanding me? Those who know should be corrected or shown, because they affect a lot of people. And we need to be aware of this. And that's egoism. When that happens, it's because they now believe they're so powerful that they can manipulate minds. And the thing is, we have to understand again and again, if you look at all the traditions, everyone says, see the divine light within. Again and again and again. And the work can only be done by us. Yes, all this is great, but you know, if you look throughout the ages, and I've looked at so many different philosophies and so much theology as well, and read so much about all of this, everybody has their own idea of what is right and what is wrong. But if we stay with the golden rules, you know, the yamas, niyamas, we stick with the golden rules, we stick with Buddha's Eightfold Path, we stick with things that will guide us to find the peace in our life. What does the Upanishad say? What should householders do? Practice the truth, learning and teaching. Practice goodness, learning and teaching. So this is our job, constantly learning, constantly teaching. Sri Swami Satchidananda said, our guru, he said, I don't know why, Nalanie, all these people got in their head, they think they know all this spirituality, and they think they're so much better than everybody else. And he said, I told them to think of Goddess Saraswati. She's a goddess. And she still has the book in one hand, she's still learning, and she's got music in the other, and the goddess is still learning. And people on earth, the moment they have a little spiritual practice, they think they're better than everybody else. And this is egoism. And I'm very sad to say, sometimes I see it more in people who claim spirituality than in people who come and see me and have no knowledge of it, or they think they don't have knowledge. And they come, maybe business people, but they have such kind hearts. And I see, they just don't know. But they have such kind hearts, and they do such good deeds. And then I go, and I think, and I go, who's really more spiritual? This business person who knows nothing about spirituality, with such a kind heart, and wants to create a better business because he or she wants her staff or his staff to be a team. How to do it. How to do it to honor the teachings, to be good and do good and be kind. Then you think, who knows better? So I think this is a trap many people fall into. There's a wonderful book called Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. It's written by a Buddhist monk. I read it many, many years ago. Great book, and it touches all these things about ego, about spiritual people, how we get lost in the ego, and how we just get lost from ourselves. We give all our power away to anybody because we think they know better than us. But learn from everybody, take it in, and yes, and then develop yourself. And the people who know better than you, it's because of good karma. And their job is to share it anyway. is to share it, because what nothing belongs to us. No knowledge, no nothing. Nothing belongs to us. I remember when I first started studying the sutras, nobody wanted to share it. They didn't want to share it. And I go, but this should go out to the world. It should go out to the world. This is what the magic for peace is, the Sutras of Patanjali. No. You can only teach it. This is 35 years ago, to certain people. And then I asked my guru, Swami Satchidananda, he was alive. I said, Gurudev, I love this. You know, what do you think? He said, Nalanie, go teach it. Teach it to everyone. Teach it to everyone. So sometimes the advice gets filtered down and we don't hear it properly. But this is what we need to do. And also, we need to look after the other people, the more wealthy people who don't get this and get the commercial yoga, right? They only get the commercial yoga because they pay the money and they get the commercial yoga. So those people also need to be looked after. We need to also look after the people who are on top, because they can make a difference. So also our time should be given to those people. So yoga is about working with everybody, the lowest of the lowest and the highest of the highest. And because there's no difference, you see, there's no judgments made. It's not the material things that make you, it's your heart that makes you. It's your spirit that makes you. It's your spirit that drives you. So be aware that we don't narrow the scope of yoga. And egoism tends to do that. Our ego tends to do that. We make it really, really small. You know, and I think that's a lesson. I did that in the past, and I can see it was a big mistake, because as I grow older, and again and again, my students, all of you, and my clients have really taught me so much more. That is just not like that, because when you see each individual case, you really understand the mind stuff. And this is what yoga is all about, mind stuff. And is it that easy to meditate with a blank mind? The amount of people tell me that they feel guilty because there's too many thoughts when they meditate. And I go, why do you feel guilty? It's a process. So this is where we got the creative visualization, imagine this and imagine this. You do this in the beginning. And then after the mind becomes quiet, you practice the yama niyamas. The more you practice, over the years, you start to see yourself very clearly. Then you'll see where you have the ego. And then I used to pray, oh my God, I have such a big ego. Dear God, please help me, you know. And you pray, you just pray, you ask for help. And it always comes. Something will always happen to break you down, as Gurudev says. You know. Life will teach you. Life will show you the way. So long as you're sincere, you will be always guided. And what is life but your inner light and your inner intuition? Make that strong. You know, Gurudev, one teaching he gave me, which I will never forget, he said, you know, yes, there are all these things in the gunas, there are the angels, there are this, you know, there's all of that in the Bhagavad Gita. It says, do not spend so much time with all these things. Of course they'll help you and they'll always look after you. But if you spend too much time with them, you won't grow yourself because you keep depending on them to help you. When are you going to help yourself? Because ultimately it's self-realization. So don't spend too much time, because they want to communicate with the human beings. They do. But sometimes when you get them communicating with you too much, you don't allow yourself to grow. And I've seen this with so many people. Again, I cannot make a decision without consulting my medium. I cannot make a decision without consulting the psychic. Well, again, it's giving your power away. It's all about self-realization. What happens when you give it away? Then your intuition is clamped. Your gift is clamped. And it's a gift we all have. Naturally, we have it. Children have it. Everybody has it. So that's the secret. I'm not saying any of these things are wrong or right. I really am not. I'm just saying if you need it, like sometimes when people lose someone, they ask me, said, Nalanie, I really need to go to a medium, or I try to do a creative visualization with them where they see their partner and talk to them in their head. That's how I do it. But sometimes that's not enough for everybody. And I say, go. If it makes you feel better one time, go. But don't make it a habit, because you don't let that person go free. And besides, you don't know if it's that person. Have you all seen the film Ghost? Mm-hmm. Right? It's literally like that. There's so many spirits that are longing to come to you, longing. So you don't know. And there are no secrets, because they don't have a body. They can read everybody's minds. You don't know if the person that's coming to you is really that person or is another spirit. And that's what my master told me. So he said, you can never be sure anyway. So why not just play it safe and get strong in yourself and trust that connection. And the teacher's there to help you understand that you have that connection, to remind you the connection is within you. Just to remind you, because we tend to all feel, that we can't connect. And that's a big mistake. We're going to a new generation where all our power today is given to technology. Much of our power is given to technology, and we're losing our own ability more and more and more. If we don't fight for ourselves, who will? That's all I can say. You have to fight for yourself. Because if you don't, you give all your power away. Technology is wonderful in certain ways. You want to find out something, Google it. It's a great tool. But if we get fanatical about it, we lose our individuality. So this is just some things that ego gets involved with, because there's so much now. I want to learn more. 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 So people are listening to podcasts all day long, which is great, but they're not listening to their podcast. So you need to listen to yours too, So please remember that. And that comes with the next sutra we're going to cover, is attachment is that which follows identification with pleasurable experiences. Of course, when you have something pleasurable in your life, something is really good, and you lose it, it just throws you off balance. And you get upset, you get angry, you get in pain, because that's the attachment that you have, because you lost it. It's something you want. It's a good experience. Why can't I have it? Why can't I have it again and again and again? So that attachment, as it says in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, sloka 62 and 63, by brooding on sense objects, because the sense objects means everything that's outside of you, on these objects or people or things, attachment appears. From that attachment, desire comes. Then you want it. First you see it, then you think, your head goes over it again and again. And then you want it now. I want it for me. That's the difference. I want it for me. Not that I want it, and if I can have it, I'll have it. From that, there's no problem. But I want it now for me. So from desire unfulfilled, anger ensues. Anger, you get angry. Why can't I have it? Why? What have I done? My life, all I've done is good things. And why can't I have what I want? Which is the victim role, right? Most people know these words. And then what happens when anger comes into your system? You lose discriminative discernment. You really cannot see the truth. You cannot see the truth. You're so angry that the truth escapes you. This is why I always tell people, when you're angry, that is not the moment to make a decision. Please, be angry if you need to. We all have a right to be angry. Sometimes things don't turn out well. We should be angry about certain things that are not right. That's not wrong. But allow yourself the anger, because you need to express it, otherwise you'll be sick. But once you've expressed it to yourself first and the walls, then calm down a little bit. And then if you need to address the situation, address it when you calm. Keeping the same principles. It doesn't mean we're angry because somebody behaved in the wrong way. It doesn't mean when you calm, you forgive it and say, oh no. You do forgive it, but it's a different kind of forgiving. It's forgiving, but this needs to be addressed, which takes strength and not cowardice. So if you look at all the yogis of the world, they were extremely humble, but extremely confident. If you can get that combination, once I asked Gurudev, he had two people that were helping him. And one was so meek and one was so strong. And so I said to him, Gurudev, how do you do this? And he said, Nalanie, in life, you need both. You need the lion and you need the lamb. But he says, those two have been put together, not because of me, because of them. Like Ramakrishna's story said, the lamb needs to get stronger and the lion needs to get weaker. And he's put them both together. He said, unfortunately, with me, he was joking. He was so funny, Gurudev. He didn't use the word unfortunately, he said, with me. Because he loved them so much. He really loved them so much. But he said, the teaching is theirs. Aha. And then I remember thinking to myself how much this man has sacrificed to allow all this disturbance to be around him when he was so peaceful. So anyway, going back to the attachment. So here he's just saying, basically, when we get attached, we get ourselves into trouble. Then we don't get happy. It's nobody punishing us, nobody hurting us. No, your problem here is that we really, really want it. Now, some people tell me, I really want it now, I really want it. Is that so bad? And I go, well, I hope you get it, but be careful what you ask for. Because sometimes I've seen people ask for stuff, they get it, and when they get it, it's not what they seem. Some things, sometimes you think this is going to make you happy. So the practice is, think, as Gandhi said, I have my every need, not my every greed. Just think that way. If you think that way, I have my every need, not my every greed. So when the desire and the attachment comes, you talk to yourself. It's really self-talk. Nobody else can do it for you. You talk to yourself. I've often done this to myself. Nalanie, you know that if you got this and da-da-da-da-da-da in my head, I normally nowadays I really do feel up everything I need. So it's just nice to sit there in the garden and see the green and be so grateful. It's just different. I know if I need anything, now it's a difference. I know. Whereas before, I didn't know. So it's a transition. It's a transition. And so this does take time. And I want you to accept this, because then you don't judge yourself so harshly. Somebody was on the phone with me the other day, and she said to me, Nalanie, why can't I learn? Why can't I learn? Why am I taking so long to learn to love myself? And I said, because you're so stressed out about it. You don't have to try so hard. You are already lovable. Your problem is you're trying too hard. Just accept yourself for who you are, and what you don't like in yourself, change it. So what don't you like yourself? She says, I'm too sensitive. So take that thought. I react too quickly to things. Why am I so sensitive? Go back to the sutra. Ego, self-identity. Anytime anybody says a little bit that you don't like to hear about yourself, you go into fight mode or pain mode or crying mode or I'm not good enough. But you are good enough. People are just like that. When you work in the world, people will say things that are not nice. In one ear, out the other ear. If you need to approach it, then you tell that person, hey, listen, I need to talk to you because the energy in this room is not the same as it used to be. Don't point fingers, ask. Have I done something to hurt you? Have I done something that's brought around this retaliation or this anger towards me? When you put it that way, then the person is not in fight or flight, right? They have to think, or they have to tell you the truth, or they have to see it's not you, it's me. So, but you can see from the face whether they've got it or not. This is why know expressions well. You learn a lot from expressions. So this is what I mean when we badger ourselves all the time that I can't do it now, I can't do it now, why can't I do it, why can't I do it? It actually puts too much stress on your body and your mind. You can do it. You are beautiful. Don't fight yourself so much. We're human. Keep on telling yourself we're human. Why am I not liking this? Because my ego, I'm too proud. Gurdjieff told me one time, being humble is egotistical. Being too shy is egotistical, just as being arrogant is. And that's true, because if you are shy, it means you're very self-aware. You're very self-aware. You're very aware of what people think of you. So he said, lose that. So these are the little intricacies that you don't learn in books, really, because this is life. You learn in life. Books, even if we read all this, these little tiny things they don't talk about. This is why you have to look at your life, talk to yourself, work it out for yourself, and you will find when you do that, your intuition will guide you as to what is right or wrong. If you have a firm moral standing, you won't go wrong. You won't go wrong. It might be painful. You might suffer a bit, but who doesn't? Ego doesn't like it. That suffering is because your ego doesn't like it. But the suffering is so bad that you go, you know what? I'd rather dump you, guy, and go for my nice ego, which loves peace. And that's what you do. Go for peace. Go for peace. So the next one, I think you all know, dukkha, it's called in Sanskrit. Aversion is that which follows identification with painful experiences. Nobody likes painful experiences. Would you all agree with that? Who likes to be in pain? None of us. So, and this is when we're in pain, because we're averse to the situation we're in now, and we keep talking about it, and we keep talking about it, we actually become attached to the pain. Because the more you talk about it, the more you talk about it, the more you become attached to it. You know, you don't want it, but because you don't want it so badly, what you resist will persist. We don't want to feel the pain. The more you don't want it, the more you're thinking about it, because I don't want, it's too much energy. So how do you deal with this? Acceptance is the only way. Accept. You know, there's no other way. Accept this is what's happening to me, and I don't like it. I don't like it, but I'm not going to identify too much with it. It will pass. It will pass. Because when we identify too much with what we don't like, pain is something we don't like. The pain grows in us. It stays longer. That's all. And this stops us from finding out truth. And it's very tempting. Of course, when you're in pain, it's very tempting to feel sorry for yourself. And that's not wrong either. It's okay. It's not that it's wrong or right. But no prolonged feeling sorry for yourself, excuse me, or prolonged crying is detrimental to your mental health. It will create mental disabilities, and in long term create deep depressions and land you in a place that you don't want to be. So if you are aware, when you have so much anger, hate, aversion is, I don't like this person, I hate this person, which is what I always tell you that happened to me in my beginning when somebody was so horrible to me. There was so much aversion and I didn't want to be there, but I was in so much pain that the only way out for me was to forgive it. Forgive it from my heart is the only way out. And I did it selfishly. So when you're forgiving or you're letting go of the painful situation, really think of it as selfish. Because if I don't feel it, I am better. It's not that you're being kind. Nothing about being kind there. It's actually the truth. I am better when I'm not angry. I am better when I don't take this nonsense into my head. So I don't deserve, I used to tell myself, I don't deserve to feel this anger. I don't deserve it. It's not good for me. And when I'm this anger, I'm not a good person. I don't like who I am. I don't appreciate who I am. And this is how you deal with these identifications with painful experiences. Also, the other thing is, one of the practices I always used for aversion to painful circumstances is literally compare myself to the rest of the world. And when I compared myself to the rest of the world, my painful experience was not as bad as most of the people I know. And especially when you go to these, when I have seen so many abused people in my life, really abused, really abused. I have seen such terrible things done to them. And I'm asking them to forgive. I'm going, I went through nothing. Reality check. It's a reality check. I absolutely went through nothing. Why am I making such a big fuss? That's my ego. You actually really feel it's coming from deep within. This knowledge is not that you're denying it. It's not like you're putting it away. It comes from deep. It's the truth. It's the truth. I've been attaching myself to this painful experience when compared to so many people I know, it's nothing. Oh my God, then you just want to let it go. You just want to let it go. Naturally, and it comes naturally because you really see that's the truth, and then you suddenly feel, I'm so blessed, my pain is so small compared to people's pain that is so huge. I should be there serving them, not thinking the world should be serving me, because compared to them, I'm the luckiest person I know. And then when this comes from deep, deep, deep within, then you won't have any more aversion towards painful experiences. You realize it's life. Who doesn't go through it? Thank God I got off light. I didn't get off too heavy. And in the end, anyway, the pain, I presume the most painful experiences is when we leave everything behind. There's no attachment. Can you imagine the moment of death? I don't want to go, I don't want to go, I don't want to go, but you have to go. It's really quite scary, right? And I know quite a few people like that too. So, and there's no choice, because sometimes it's not your choice. Most of the time it isn't our choice. So when you think these things, and that's why I think contemplation, that's why I love to teach these sutras, because I think when you hear them, it's important for you to read them again and again and again and reflect. I think contemplation and reflection is the best teacher of all. Better than any book in the world, better than any podcast in the world, because you're really going inside yourself. You're understanding what you really went through, why you went through it, and how you can come out at least, peaceful. We can't be happy all the time, not possible, but we can be peaceful. And that's why I think aim for the peace. And this is how I work with aversion. And you find your way. How can you deal with it? Because we all have our own ways. Somebody said to me, what was it? I think it was my daughter said, Mum, when people are feeling bad, they say that when you pat a dog all day long, the pain goes away. I said, I love it. You see, these are the little things that when you look at your own life, like I said, you don't learn this from books, you learn by watching. And this is what Gurudev said to me as well when, we didn't have podcasts in those days, books. So I think I've told you all, I used to go to London and come back without clothes, without presents, books, a bag full of books. And my husband goes, that's all you want? Books. I used to read and read and read. And of course, everybody gave you different points of views. And one day I said to Gurudev, I'm so confused about the chakras. This person said it this way, this one said. And he goes, Nalanie, stop reading. Read from the book of life. you will learn the most from the book of life. And I stopped reading. I stopped reading for a while. Till many years later I started again. So this is the learning that I got. So don't give yourself more time during the day to learn about yourself. It's really important, and then you will know the things that make you feel adverse, how to deal with it, and not judge it. Because when you judge it, it's also egoism, all the time trying to fix everything, and sometimes we can't fix everything right away. Can't fix things. So just try not to judge it, accept your anger, accept your pain, and see how you can work through it, taking you out to the other side. Work through it. So you don't feel so much guilt about yourself. So many people feel guilty about themselves. And finally, the last one, clinging to life, flowing by its own potency, due to past experiences, exists even in the wise. So clinging to life, the fear of death is so deeply ingrained in us. Why? And he says here, due to past experiences, whether we remember it or not, we have had many past lives. That's why we're all individual. If only had one life, we would all be identical, wouldn't we? But we all have different karmas. We come with different karmas for action, reaction. So he said, but all of us have faced death. And some of us have had traumatic death experiences. Some of us have had, deaths that we probably don't want to remember. So the fear of suffering, the fear of pain, the fear of disease, the fear of losing what you know, the fear in previous lifetimes maybe we're too attached, and because we were so attached, we couldn't let go, so we cling on to this life. And so what happens when you cling on to bodily life? You're also kind of living in an unreality. What do we mean by unreality? Lead us from unreal to real. Lead us from darkness to the light. Lead us from the fear of death to knowledge of immortality. The truth is, we are immortal. Where we go, none of us really know. We can say this, we can say that, we can say... I don't think people really know. Yes, we know there are other dimensions, 100%. But I don't think any of us can foretell exactly where we're going to go. I just don't. I haven't not known one person to really know. I've known people before they've gone to say where they're going. But when they've actually gone to come back, maybe Paramahansa Yogananda's guru came back to him and told him, if you read Autobiography of a Yogi, that's one book that really has convinced me, but then are we all Paramahansa Yogananda? We have to accept who we are in life. Who are we in this life? So thinking about clinging to bodily life exists even in the wise. And I've seen this with many people who say they're spiritual and they can't let go at the last moment. So it's not only clinging to bodily life in yourself, it's clinging to bodily life for other people. So clinging to bodily life exists even in the wise. And I'll finish off with a story that I was told by Silta, dear Silta, when she was alive many years ago. She said one of her students wanted to do a regression because she was always interested in going back into past lives. So there was this woman who came and did a regression on her. And when they brought her back to one past life, they brought her back to the point of where she was about to die. And what happened was she saw that somebody had taken a knife and stabbed her. So in the regression, she was in this life. It was too scary. It was like it was happening to her in this life. So she screamed and she had a heart attack. She literally had a heart attack. They had to take her straight to the hospital. Silsa was telling me this. And I go, okay, that's me. I'm not doing regression. Because I mean, I'm not saying it happens to everyone, but this was a story that was told to me. The same, sometimes people go into past lives and it can help them, but we never know what's going to happen. So anyway, so this is why we cling to bodily life. This is why I think it's really important to understand death. I always tell people, before you lose someone, because it's really horrible to lose somebody close, read lots of books about death and dying. I'm very, very grateful I did. I did it for all my patients who taught me so much. And that I was so prepared when my father died, then my guru, then my father, then my husband, one after the other every 2 years. And it prepared me, because these were the people in my life at that time that I thought I could never live without. And I was so prepared, more prepared than I'd ever thought I would be. So much so that my family and many people depended on me after Gurudev passed. And I was quite surprised that I was so strong. I was shocked. But it was all those years of reading those books about dying, talking about death and dying, talked about it, read about it, looked at it, gave me the strength to understand it as not death, but moving into another dimension, a dimension of light. And I have had physical proof myself that when the soul goes, they become energy and light. And I've had that twice, once with my dad passing, once with my husband, 3 times. My guru passing, somebody took a photo and there was a light over my head right after he died. And somebody took a photo. And then it was after my dad died and my husband saw that I was in this reverie of seeing this white light in the room. And when my husband died 6 weeks later, I had the same light. So all I know is what I can tell you. I cannot tell you anything else. I saw everything as light and energy. I think we finished our syllabus on Patanjali.